I'll call this meeting to order of the Siloam Springs City Board of Directors. Roll call.
Blair. Burns.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Chrysler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
We have a quorum, and we will now ask that anyone who has a electronic device to turn it off so it does not go off during the meeting or silence it. And it looks like Director Wiles will say the prayer tonight. But if you're not prepared, I'll do it, whatever you wish to do. If you'll stand with me, we'll have a prayer and then stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we come before you this evening, just first thanking you so much for the blessings that we enjoy individually and as a city. And we just pray, Father, as we go through the items of discussion this evening, you will help us clearly, Father, that you will help us to have insight into the issues, Father, and make the decisions that are best for all involved. We thank you so much for all you do for us, especially for your Son and the salvation that we have in him. And it is
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first agenda item is public input for anyone who has a comment, question. You may come to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. This is for anything that is not on the current agenda, which, if you don't have one, is on the podium at the front door. And FYI, we graciously had a local citizen provide some refreshments in the break room. If anybody's hungry, help yourself. So if there's anyone that has anything to say, come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Hello, Mark Miller, 22587 Westwood Drive, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I came to the board about 3 months ago and asked my community wanted an update about what was happening with Oak Crest Road. Unfortunately, as of today's date, I have not received any feedback. I sent an email earlier today. Unfortunately, it was truncated, so I don't know exactly what you received. But the east portion of Oak Crest Road between Oak Crest Drive and Hyco has a number of areas that are, some potholes are 3 foot in diameter, 1.5 inches deep. You can't miss them, especially if there's two-way traffic. Everybody tries to weave their way through. You can tell the people who don't live in the area because they come blazing through and almost bounce off the road. Anyway, so we'd like to get some feedback as to, is there any plans for Oak Crest Road? The second thing is it possible, if nothing else, can we at least get some patching done on the east side between Oak Crest Drive and Hyco, so that at least there's not these big potholes? They also did I know they had some main water line breaks. They're doing some water line repair out there. They dug a couple of holes across it on the west side. They filled it with gravel, but you know, gravel doesn't stay there, so they're starting to get pretty rough also. I just wanted to bring this back to your attention, and if someone would follow up with me, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I requested a updated street list just last week, and our Public Works Director may need to speak to this, but at the top of the 2026 list is Oak Crest Road Rebuild County Partnership.
Great.
It, of course, has to be approved for the 2026 budget.
Right.
But it is listed, the staff did meet with the county judge in August, and a partnership was agreed upon for city to buy the materials and the county to perform the work.
Sounds great. That's all we're asking for.
I was excited too, because
Yes.
I drive it quite often.
Yeah, I'd invite any of you, if you just drive that east section for a moment, you'll understand why we're concerned.
It's easy to say, well, it's half out of the city, but it doesn't mean an awful lot of citizens in the city drive it as a go-through road often. And it is, I'd say, one of the top 2 or 3 worst streets we have.
Yes.
I know that's not something you wish to put a gold medal on, but it is. And so I'm just happy that we are going to be addressing it.
Well,
So,
great.
yeah.
I hope it moves forward.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And thanks for emailing the board.
Sure.
Is there anyone else? If so, come to the podium and state your name and address. There's not. We will now open it for public comment if there is anything on the consent agenda. If so, we will address anything on the consent agenda. And before we actually get to the consent agenda, we've got a presentation from our police chief, Scott Miller, regarding 20-year employees. Chief, there he is. Floor is yours, sir.
Vice Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Scott Miller, Chief of Police. It is my honor tonight to recognize 2 members of the Siloam Springs Police Department who are celebrating their 20 years of dedicated service to the city of Siloam Springs. Their 2 decades of service, their 2 decades of service have devoted their lives serving and protecting our community. Through long nights, tough calls, and countless acts of quiet professionalism, their steadfast commitment, integrity, compassion embody the very best of the city of Siloam Springs public service. Their careers are a testament to what it means to serve with excellence and honor, and their leadership experience continues to strengthen both our department and our city. On behalf of the Siloam Springs Police Department and the city, I want to express my deepest gratitude for their 20 years of service and sacrifice. More importantly, to their families, we want to say thank you for your sacrifices throughout the nights, long weekends, early mornings. Your unwavering support has made their service possible. Please join me in congratulating Lieutenant Deandra Bartley and Sergeant Ron Coble for their remarkable milestone in their continued dedicated service to our community. At this time, I'd ask them to each come up here, and I can present them with their plaques. Please join me in recognizing their service and thanking them.
Ron, Deandra, you don't want to do a speech or anything? No? No, thank you. All right.
That's 20 years right there.
Thank you both for all your service to our citizens. Thank you, Chief. Our next agenda item is the presentation of the rate study from 1898 and Company.
Presentation. Good evening, Board. My name's Dave Nauman. I'm with 1898 & Co., a part of Burns & McDonnell, and it is my pleasure to be with you tonight to talk to you about what we're seeing in our rate study. I'd like to first just acknowledge I'm joined remotely by some colleagues that specialize in the different disciplines that your utility enterprise includes. So Alex Craven with water and sewer, Adam Young on the electric side, and Allison on solid waste. To the extent that you have questions that I can't address, I've got resources here with me to help get your questions addressed and answered. One of the things we find helpful when talking about what's happening with your utility rates is to give you some context around what we see nationwide with respect to household water, sewer, solid waste, and electric costs. And we'll also do some bill benchmarking so you get an idea of how your rates compare for the same service with other communities in the area. So we'll get to that first. Then we'll talk about the rate study process, where we're at, and some of the preliminary findings that we have to share with you tonight. And we'll close with some next steps. So first, on the background information, the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks some indices that we find helpful in just communicating what's happening at the household level with utility costs. And on this chart, what you'll see in the blue line is the trend in household water, sewer, and trash expenses, which are increasing over the last 20 or so years at about 4.5% per year. Energy or electric is at about 3.1%. And we compare that to what's happening to general inflation, what we all think of in CPI, which over that same time period is increasing at about 2.5%. So household utility costs just nationwide are rising faster than general inflation, what we think of as just normal inflation. There's a few reasons for that. One, regulatory pressures, compliance issues that a lot of utilities are dealing with, maintaining and sustaining underground infrastructure particularly is a big liability for a lot of our utilities. And then just the inflation that those enterprises face is different than at the household level. Chemical costs, for instance, has been very volatile the last 5 years. So there are some pressures that are happening on utilities that are different. And it's helpful context when we start looking at the need for adjustments. When we look at regional comparisons, so you'll see a similar format for the next 4 charts. So this first one is water. And for an average user, which is about 6,000 gallons, my mistake, per month, what we see for your current water rates is that your bill is about in the middle of the survey, less than average. So that's, again, helpful context for kind of knowing where you stand with respect to the regional peers. On sewer, about average. There's a pretty tight clustering of similar bills for sewer service that you see in a little less dispersion compared to the water industry, but again, about average. On the solid waste, I would say about average too. It's a little higher than the average we see on the solid waste side. And then on the electric side, again, you're currently at about an average rate. This one's a little different. This shows an equivalent yield per kilowatt hour for the different communities that are shown here. But just a quick recap, household utility costs are rising faster than general inflation. Your current bills are about average to maybe slightly less than average. We saw solid waste slightly above. And then I think it's helpful also to acknowledge your rates haven't changed since 2021. And CPI in that amount of time has gone up about 20% cumulatively, so we know inflation's been an issue as well. So preliminary financial plans, we start with a process overview. We look at rate studies as a 3-step process. That first step is developing a financial plan that looks at the sufficiency of your current revenues to meet future operating costs and capital or project needs. That gives us an indication of how much revenues might need to change in order to fund those future costs. And that's where we're at today. So we'll share some of those findings with you today. The second and third step of the process take costs from those financial plans and assign them to user classes based on how they use your service and your systems. So it gives you an indication of equity. And we use that in conjunction with the last step, which is rate design, to help price your service that delivers the revenue that you need as fairly as we can make it. Your current utility financial status is, quite frankly, pretty weak. You haven't had rate increases since 2021. Your cash flows on all 4 utilities have been declining, and we know that you had to rely on general fund funds to support the purchase of primarily equipment, particularly, I think, transformers in the electric utility. And as a result, as we start 2025 and the projections in this study, we're assuming there really is no existing balances for liquidity purposes. So I know as a city, you have policies to try to achieve 90 days or better as a minimum operating reserve. Because of the borrowing that's occurred, those funds are essentially depleted. And the electric utility in this plan will pay back about $2.9 million over the next 5 years for those transformer purchases. So you're in a fragile state financially. We know that all 4 utilities need investment to help sustain the utilities and accommodate growth. And so the plans that we'll discuss tonight include combinations of revenue adjustments, sales tax funding. There's some borrowing from the general fund for the wastewater utility, which we'll talk about. But it's a combination of levers that we've been working with your staff to adjust to bring you plans that we hope are as palatable as we can make them. And even with the plans that we'll show you tonight, we project reserves will continue to be weak. They will improve at the end of 5 years, but they are weak, and they're weaker than the 90 days that we would like them to be. There are a lot of assumptions that go into the projections of your future cash flows. The first one we'll talk about here is growth. So we know your community's been experiencing growth. We have growth assumptions in your accounts and your usage that range 3 to 4% per year. So growth helps you in a lot of respects because it adds additional revenue and additional customers, and it allows you to leverage your assets better, which is a good thing. Operating cost inflation, we're assuming about an average of 4% per year across these utilities. It varies a little bit depending on the mix of type of costs, but it's around 4% a year. The general fund transfers that your utilities contribute are unchanged. So the percentages you see here are what's currently practiced, and we don't have any adjustments to those. We have several $1 million in capital improvements to be funded per utility. So you can see for electric, it's about $29 million. Water is around 11. Wastewater is the biggest challenge at 44, and then solid waste at about 420,000. Some sales tax funding is anticipated, and the biggest the portion of that is the wastewater utility. There's a wastewater treatment plant project that we expect to happen in this next 5-year period that resides within that $33.5 million, and that is what we'll borrow from general funds and then pay back over 15 years at 0% interest. The utility-funded capital improvements are on the top line, so that's what rates will end up paying for. And that $11 million that you see in the capital improvements for wastewater utility is the Headworks project, again, a wastewater treatment plant project. The beginning operating balance I've already talked about, and I think the other assumptions we've covered here too. The goal really for all 4 utilities is to be break even by the end of 2030. So we're going to go through 4 charts that depict your cash flows in a very similar format. We'll start with electric. It's your largest utility, the largest revenue stream. And the bars represent your cash obligations for those particular years. So for the electric utility, it's purchase power, operation and maintenance expense, the transfers to the city, cash funded capital, and then there are some small loan payments that reside within the electric utility too. The lines that you see represent revenue. So the black line is revenue under existing rates. So we can see over the next 5 years that revenue stream isn't sufficient to fund those costs. The blue line represents revenue with proposed changes. And so what we're suggesting for the electric utility is a 4% per year adjustment, and that is adequate enough to align your revenue stream with your costs. On the water utility, a similar format, a little bit different. There's obviously no purchase power in the water utility, but you have O&M. You've got the transfers to the city, and you have cash-funded capital. Again, the black line represents revenue under existing rates. A 4% per year adjustment on your water utility is also indicated to be sufficient in order to align those future revenues with your costs. On the sewer utility, similar format again, operation and maintenance expense being the largest obligation, transfers to the city, cash-funded capital, and you do see some debt or internal loans in the green bar here. It's a little more meaningful. That gets more sizable in 2027. That's associated with that Headworks project, borrowed at 0% interest for 15 years. But again, 4% is adequate to align your future revenues on the sewer system with those costs as well. So solid waste is a little different. Solid waste out of the 4 utilities is probably in the weakest condition. And you can see the costs here in blue, operation and maintenance expenses. The red is transfers to the city. There's some debt obligations there and some cash-funded capital at the very end. But the fact that those bars exceed that black line is telling you there's a fairly strong deficit that's happening in the solid waste utility at the onset. The scenario that we have in front of you would propose a 20% increase in 2026 and then 5.5% per year thereafter to, by 2030, bring those revenues again into alignment with what the annual expenditures are. So it's a more challenging situation for your solid waste utility. I'm going to share with you some preliminary information around what we think your potential bill impact could be from those plans. And I call it preliminary because the way that we price your service could be a little different depending on the type of user you are than those system-wide increases I showed on the prior slides. So 4% a year may translate a little differently to a resident versus a business, for instance. In this, we haven't finished that step. But in this diagram, or table, rather, what you'll see is assumptions that, hey, we're increasing everybody at the same percent. So it's an across-the-board adjustment, 4% per year for water, sewer, and electric, and then solid waste reflects the higher adjustments that we discussed here a moment ago. And when we look at the impact to 2026, it would suggest a change of about $12 a month. That's about 5.7% increase in that bill. About, I think, 4 of that is coming from solid waste. So that's where the largest change is occurring. Over the course of the projection period here, it's an average increase of about 4.5% per year. So it's a little heavier in the first year because of the larger change in solid waste, and then it normalizes to something a little more consistent with what we see happening industry-wide. And those, again, the adjustments that we're proposing here are really just intended to improve the financial health of your system and then begin improving the systems themselves and covering operating costs. So last slide here is just on next steps. Interested in your feedback as we transition from the financial planning stage to the development of rates and the cost of service analysis. It's helpful to know what you all think of the financial plans and to give you an opportunity to provide us feedback around the adequacy of what we're showing you. So we'll develop those proposed rates and then come back to your utility commission and your board, hopefully your utility commission at the end of this month, and we'll be back with you in early November. So that's the extent of the material I had prepared. What questions can I address for you?
Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Lisa?
Recently, last week, the county had some conversations, and they're doing their budget right now. And one of the conversations was Siloam Springs and their solid waste cost. And a lot of people are bringing their trash to us because of our rates. And recently, did we not just recently have a increase? Commercial. So how does this solve some of that issue?
Well, in this plan, your rates would go up. So the mix between residential and commercial may be a little different than what we were indicating here. You are already, if I go back to that regional bill comparison, you're about average. So, but really, it's Fayetteville and Harrison that are the ones that are higher than you. So if there's a price incentive that exists right now, as you raise those rates, it'll disincent that and encourage people to bring trash to their own, potentially. It'll probably depend, to be honest, on what that means at the individual customer level, because is it worth it to come over here and pay a little higher than they have historically?
Right, and I think we even discussed it, that we do have a lot more county come and bring in their trash to us, which is actually costing us more. And Jason speak as well.
Yeah, so where we're at is we have. Jason Davis, Community Services Director. We've been speaking with David and his team about the rate structure and how we want to proceed with that. And one of the things we talked about was increasing the transfer station rate higher and trying to get that as low as we can on the residential. So that's our goal. That's what we've talked with them about, trying to move forward and adjust these rates to where we feel it's palatable for the citizen and stretch that out as much as we can. So our biggest one that we can increase is the transfer station rate.
And that would include, if you live in the county, you pay one price. If you live in the city, you
That's correct.
pay another price.
Yeah, we have in-town rates and we have out-of-town rates.
And is it going to be 20% for both?
That's something that we'd have to look at whenever we present the findings. So when we work with them, trying to figure out where we want to adjust those rates at, that's what we'll be looking at, is where we can adjust it, where it's not going to be a huge impact to the citizens.
So can we do a smaller increase for citizens and a larger increase for county?
And that's what we'll be talking about, yes, ma'am.
And that would solve some of these issues that we've had?
Potentially, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is this online for citizens to be able to find and look at?
Right now, the agenda is online, but we can post this separately.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Board? No one? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I've got one question.
Yes, sir.
On the bar charts that you gave us showing the current compared to other cities, Bentonville seems to be the highest, like on water and sewer. When you get to the electric, we don't have Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale. What is their situation on electric?
We can research that and get back to you.
We've got different types, the investor-owned, the cooperatives. We and North Little Rock are public power. But yeah, I'm just curious because of them being the three largest near us. And they were, I think all of them were included on the other utilities. So that's something I'm interested in, just to find out what they are. And you're right, we are either at average or just under average on the majority of these. And it seems to be a non-accepted or non-recognized point in a lot of Facebook arguing that people have not paid an increase for 4 years. And so, and it's not just an increase, it would be, as it was, automatic rate, it's geometrically, they're paying next year, this year's plus next year's, based upon the geometric of every year. And so I just think sometimes our citizens don't appreciate that they have not had to have out of pocket for all the utilities for 21, 22, 23, 24, now 25. And so that is something that I think we all have to acknowledge, that we've at least got to do what used to be done for decades, which was passing on the cost of what is passed to us. You can't operate without at least covering that increase when we buy public power from GRDA. So, I mean, that's a given, that's an automatic, we can't ignore that. But I just wanted to point that out for watching, because they're watching on TV. I can't remember the year, but we did have like $30 million for a water plant upgrade. And so the upcoming wastewater is something that's just normal. That was something that was done, goodness, 15, 20 years ago. We had to put several million into an upgrade of the entire system. So just letting citizens know, on almost every utility, we are at average or below average. So, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys coming tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And of course, there will be the question of what is next. The next job of the city board will be to work with the utility commission to determine what those next steps will be. Next agenda item is the consent agenda, which is our regular meeting minutes of September 16th. And I believe that's all that's on the consent agenda. Is that correct? Is there any questions or comments about the consent agenda? If not, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Yes.
Director Carroll.
Yes.
Our next agenda item, we have the June financials in our staff reports. If anyone has any questions on those. And we will move to our regularly scheduled items, which begins with Ordinance 2529, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C2, the 400 to 500 block of North Simon Sager Avenue. And this is on its second reading. And Ben, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Yes, before you is the rezoning occurring at 400 to 500 block of North Simon Sager Drive. And again, this is going from the A1 agricultural zone to C2 roadway commercial. It's two different lots there, as you see, separated by Simon Sager. We did receive a question and inquiry about this today from the media, and we did answer those questions. But other than that, we have not received any additional comments on this. And Planning Commission and staff are still recommending approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Is there any questions or comments from the audience? I will be abstaining because this is family related. And I will entertain a motion to put ordinance 2529 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
So,
Pardon?
I'm sorry, it's the third reading.
It says second. I had thought it was third as well, but on my paper it says second.
it says
So
third on ours.
I had thought it was the third as well. So this is the third reading, suspending the rules and reading title only. You made the motion. Who seconded it?
Second.
Mindy?
I said, yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Allen abstains.
Abstain. Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-29, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to C2, property located at 400 to 500 block of North Simon Sager Avenue, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Christina. I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2529.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Abstain.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Motion passed. Next agenda item is ordinance 25-30. This is the second reading on annexation of 176 acres at the 14,000 to 15,000 block of Arkansas 59 and the 20,600 block of Bill Young Road. Mr. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben Rhodes. I believe this is on the third reading as well as the other one. But again, this is the annexation, 176 acres, as the mayor stated, along Highway 59, and as well as parts on the 2600 block of Bill Young Road. The annexation will come in with two zonings, the A1 at the southern portion, as we had discussed last time, and then R2 to the north, which is the default zoning. Future land use map for this one will be amended or required for amendment due to the agricultural portion being fronting along Highway 59. That was originally intended as regional commercial, but they're wanting to come in as rural residential per the A1 zone with future plans for commercial at a later date. We have not received direct comments on this to planning office since the last reading, and we are still recommending approval. With that, we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any comments from the board? Any questions or comments?
Vice Mayor.
Yes, Brad?
I'll kick it off, and I'm just going to start being really straightforward. I just recommend tabling this for reevaluation of the property owner or purchaser, that before we annex in, that A1 becomes C2, so we don't have to make an amendment. So that's my first. And then second would be, I appreciate the phone call from Mr. Butler yesterday. This afternoon, I found an email in my trash, which is not a big deal, but I think I got it sent out, and it had some epic pictures. Having gone out there today and walked the property again, and after discussion with that property owner that owns a significant amount of the property there to the north and to the east, and that's going to be generational, so that's going to be an agri area. Additional to that, I attended the Quorum Court meeting with Benton and Washington County, and a lot of concern about drawing that agri line in our county versus where a city expands. So I want annexation here. I'm just pro-annexation. It's open land. It makes sense. Having said that, this would be our northeast boundary to the city of Siloam Springs based on the conversation taking place at the county. Additional to that, there is so much significant infrastructure that needs to occur that I, as an elected official, struggle with our relationship with the county, as a resident just pointed out, with Oakcrest. So any development taking place there, the infrastructure is a dismal failure, and it is concerning. Second would be the drainage That drainage, there's 3 significant drainages out there. I know you've heard me on my soapbox about we all live downstream, but we literally live downstream from this one. This is also a contributory to Sager Creek. It is a wetland area. It is virgin prairie on the proposed R2 site. So the infill that will need to occur is significant. Additional to that, there is zero, from a topographical standpoint, gravity flow out there to speak of. It's low-lying area. So additional to the sewer, which is on the developer's end, but I have to think who pays for the lift station. And the more I dig into this, and over the past 2 readings, and I met with Mr. Holmeyer because I needed somebody with experience and knowledge. And just the deeper you get into this is, I just don't think financially we're ready to annex this area in until we get answers from the county, that the developer talked to those that are around them. City staff did a great job, but the residents out there are rural, and they're not, they're concerned about what developments will go in there. And according to the graph, as we dig through this document, there's 3 dots on small housing. And I want to be a good neighbor when we do expand out there, and I don't think that's being a good neighbor. And I could go through 2 pages of notes, but I'm going to spare you the detail unless we need to. I just feel like we need to have better communication from that developer, what their end intent is. I think we should request them to finish the A1 and whatever they're getting off that harvest out there, whatever that material is, and bring a annexation in where it's all zoned appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else? Yes,
Madam-
Lisa?
or, no.
Oh, who said first?
She said first, but then I have something to say too,
Okay,
but go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I agree with a lot of things Brad's saying. I think growth can be positive when it's planned responsibly. But when a city is already facing budget concerns, major infrastructure repairs, and potential rate increases, expanding too quickly can create some serious risk for our community, for our citizens, to have to foot the bill. I did talk to the county today about Airport Road, and they are waiting on the city to get answers, because they met with the city at the same time they met with Oakcrest, and they said as soon as they hear back with the city, they'll, on an agreement for the Airport Road, they're ready to move forward. Bill Young Road, that's on, they're planning on doing it next year. This is the thing we got to remember. Every time we have an annexation conversation, and the county's looking at repairing a road, and the perfect example is Oakcrest Road. Every time they get wind that we're talking annexation, what happens to those street projects? They stop. And so we can annex 3 different ways. We can forcibly annex by the board of directors. We can take it to the citizens for them to annex, to agree to annexation, or we can have people volunteer. But just because people volunteer to annex doesn't mean we have to take it, because if the opportunity is not at the right time, that does not mean we need to move forward with it. We have drainage issues. It's been proven. Every single board of director up here has had problems with drainage. Every single one of us have met with staff at drainage problems across this city. We have utility rate increases that are scaring our citizens, and I understand it. It's hard. Financially, it's hard for our community right now. We have infrastructure needs like our streets, and we have our wastewater that just not a couple months ago, there was an article in the paper that says we're 1 flush away from a disaster. And it's not because of a capacity. It's because our infrastructure needs repaired. And so think annexation should only move forward when critical infrastructure is stable and financially sustainable. Adding more development when the sewer plant needs major repairs and budgets are tight, creating a citywide crisis of sustainable practices, so progress for us. So I agree with Brad. I don't know if I agree with tabling, but I do think that we need to look at this and say, just because we can annex doesn't mean we need to. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we need to. We need to look at our infrastructure, where we at with our budget, and how's it going to affect the citizens that are currently citizens inside the city limits.
Okay, I appreciate the information from Director Burns and Director Rissler. I've sort of been out of pocket in the last week or two, so I haven't been able to go dive as deeply. And then I really appreciated the call I got today from one of the citizens out in that area that provided a lot of information. As far as tabling, I don't care one way or the other, but I do have a couple of questions. One is, the citizen who called today asked the question. I wasn't able to answer it, even though I looked in our ordinances, I couldn't find it. But he was of the impression that in order to annex, to request annex, you had to be requesting annexation on property that already abutted the city. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the area that is being zoned, or they're requesting the R2, by itself, it's not abutting city property, is it?
Not by itself, but the full annexation is. It's all touching.
Shouldn't they be separate requests?
We've seen annexations with multiple zonings. So the land use is separate from the annexation.
Okay,
Annexation is just, does the land come into the city or not?
Okay.
And everything in the hatched area on the map does abut to the city limits.
so as long as it's all one request and part of it is abutting the city, it's okay?
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's helpful. And then the other question related to the sewer system. In our packet, the information says that sanitary sewer is not available to the property at this time, and that the city, by accepting annexation, is under no obligation to extend the sewer on behalf of the property owner. So I understand it's going to be the property owner's responsibility. The next sentence says the property owner or any other party may be granted permission to extend sanitary sewer to the north to service the property at their expense. But then under bullet points at the end, under key points, one of the bullets says sanitary sewer to be extended by the developer to the property. So the question here is I know that we're not under any obligation, and it's going to be the property owner's responsibility, but in one place it says we may grant that, and the other place it says that will happen. So if we were to accept this annexation, would they automatically be granted the permission to tie into the city sewer?
Mr. Mayor, so there's two parts to that. The city is not any obligation to extend the sewer with taxpayer money just to go to this property.
Right.
However, the private developer may spend their own funds to extend sewer up there. So it's not saying they can't get sewer at all. It's that who's paying for it, if that makes sense.
Right,
Yeah.
but the way I read part of that memo was the property owner may be granted permission. That implies to me that they would still have to get our permission to do that. But then later in the memo, it seems to be saying, yeah, if they want to do that, they can. So,
I mean, I probably need to defer to utilities on the permission aspect, but I mean, I would imagine if they're going to be paying to have the sewer extended out, that would be available to
tie
them.
in.
Yeah.
okay. So that answered that question. So, yeah, just a lot of the concerns that have already been expressed are ones I think we need to be able to address before we move forward, whether that's tonight or later.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ken?
Well, I too received some information and had been thinking about this previously as well. And I too appreciate and agree with a lot of what was been said. Just as an addition, not to steal anybody's thunder, and I welcome you to still come up and say your piece, but I had some questions regarding the airport that, as of right now, I don't feel real comfortable with that. Give me some hesitation. So, I guess my question at this point, if we don't table, obviously, we either vote it forward or we vote it down. So, Brad, is that your intent then to table?
Yes, Mayor. My intent's just to have healthy discussion. That's my number one. I threw that out there because I didn't want to be the battle axe, but I passed that on to Director Rissler. I have additional concerns, and I don't want to give the developer the impression that we don't want that property developed. For me, the simplest thing is he's not willing to conform his A1 and his in the R2. I don't like that. I mean, that's the simplest, that solves all the problems. So that developer, I'm not saying I don't trust them, but I don't trust them because A1, if R2 goes well, it may not be C2 because that's just verbiage. Plus, so if we say, you know, we're requesting that and we drop that tonight based on that, then they're going to have to reevaluate that. And it could be in a year, the property's not going to go anywhere. And the drainage property in the county is not going to get any better. And I would remind you that to solve the problem on Oakcrest Road is going to be a $70,000 job of material. It will not be to the city standard. So your improvement, and that's just my humble opinion, which unfortunately Mr. Miller is nodding his head is correct. But it's the same way on Airport Road. It's like on Steven Road when we did the development, right? And we did the improvement to the city standard. And when you get to the county end, the curb and guttering disappears. And I think we're going to experience that. And so we've got to answer. We need good answers on infrastructure before we start looking at further development. Having said that, I think it's the simplest form for me to live with is the A1 needs to be, R2 and C2 needs to be annexed at the same time.
Well, thank you. As Mindy said, tabling doesn't affect me one way or the other. If that's what everybody wants to do, that's perfectly fine. If not, we can just take a vote. But and I know there's still to be comments to be made, but there's more questions that have come up. And I too, I was out of town last week and tried to catch up yesterday and today, but it seems to be more questions now than we have answers to. Thank you.
Well, as you said, Ken, the option is either tabling or voting. And when the option of voting could lead to a defeat, usually the best option is to table for more information, just because none of us feel that all the answers are out there right now. So I agree with what, yes, Lisa.
Please don't think I'm trying to discourage developers from, we're going to grow. You went to the meeting last week, the county, it was both the counties. We're going to grow no matter what. I think you need to clean your own house before you look outside your house. You need to make sure your infrastructure, your finances, your funding of what the community is supporting needs to be looked at first and then go outside and annex in. I have no issues with annexation. I know we're going to grow, but we've had some serious conversations in the last month or two regarding our budget. Serious conversations. They weren't good conversations. There's things we've got to look at our budget. So putting that cost on the citizens, and you say, well, it's on the developer to put the sewer line in. There's other cost. That just because they're putting the sewer line in does not mean that there's not other costs associated with them annexing and building out there. And so that's where I'm standing. I'm not trying to discourage developers. I'm not trying to discourage annexation. I'm trying to say, let's be realistic and say, we got to get through our budget, and we got to make sure we have a budget that can be financially sustainable in our community. If our wastewater system fails, we're in trouble. If we have a natural disaster, we're in trouble. And so we need to look at that, and it's great. It's grand to keep growing, and it's a great idea, but we've got to look at our budget and look in-house first before we. So I'm not discouraging. It has nothing to do with the developer. I don't even know who the developer is, so.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Reed, did you have something?
Eventually, yes.
Would you like to, I don't want to interrupt you if you want to go.
You go right ahead,
Okay, since we are talking about some of the concerns, a couple other concerns that were brought up that I thought I should go ahead and mention are, like is the case with many of our other developments, just the increased traffic. But in this particular area, which it sounds like maybe the roads are sort of at least moving in the direction of getting fixed, but there is going to be more traffic, especially if there is a larger neighborhood. But apparently, because the road is so narrow and there are semis that have to turn and go east on Bill Young Road, there are times if there is traffic trying to get out on 59 that semis have to stop on 59 before they can turn. That seems unsafe. So it does feel like there are just some concerns that we need to get addressed, questions we need to get answered, time we need to take maybe. And I agree that we've got a lot on our plate right now as far as our budget is concerned. Not just the decisions made, but just where we are with our budget and lots that needs to be done. So I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm glad we're conversing about this. This is good.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Concerning annexation, I think it's going to happen. We are going to grow. We're supposed to be doubling by the year 2050. So we're going to see growth. But the one thing that I think as we know it's coming, we need to do this with excellence, and we need to do it with intentionality. Right now, what we have shown to the people out on Airport Road or as a city, we've shown that they can have no confidence in us because we've talked about working on the road, getting Airport Road fixed, working with the county, and that's all we've done. And I think we're in a point now, especially as we see the city growing, we've got to do more than just have conversations with the county. We've got to actually work with, collaborate with, and get some things accomplished to where it's not just conversation, but it's reality, where people can drive down a road without having to swerve around potholes and dips and what have you. And I think Airport Road is a place where we can start. Also out on Oak Crest, that's another place we can start. We've talked about them as long as I've been on the board, but I haven't seen the action. And that's where I think we as a city need to step up. I'm not saying we got to spend all the money in the county, you'll just let us do it all, but we need to find a way to work with them and to see actual things happen. taking this annexation, right now it's county. So when someone's driveway is full of water from a heavy rain, the city's not part of the drainage. But if we receive this into the city, then the city gets to be part of that and making sure that it's taken care of properly. Are we prepared for that? And in doing annexation, even when we had the annexation this last year and it did not pass, my comments were that I'm all for annexation if we can support that annexation. And as we have heard stated here this evening, among other directors, we have a lot on our plate to work with, and to add more of this, are we adding to something that we can do with excellence? Are we adding to something just maybe makes our city a little bit bigger, but we're only can be adequate, not excellent? And I'm all for the excellence. No, I'm not. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we need to have the opportunity to do our best. Concerning the infrastructure, we do have some needs right now, and I believe we've seen those addressed this evening from the report we had earlier. And those sound really good as far as being able to fix things, but it does mean that we're going to have to have increase, which is inevitable. If we haven't had an increase since 2021, I don't think anybody can say, well, we need to do another 4 or 5 years of that. We've got to be able to maintain what we have to let this town be who we are, and that is an excellent community. To the north of this property, it would be county, but we also have some chicken houses up there. They're there legally, they're there properly. And one of the things that we're seeing in that industry is that you're not seeing chicken houses go up and they're there just for 10, 15 years and then they move on to another site, because sites are getting more and more scarce. And in doing so, these houses are probably going to be, instead of torn down and replaced, they're going to be improved. And I'm not afraid of chicken houses, but if this is going to go R2 and we're looking at some housing, when the wind is blowing from the north, somebody's going to know there's chicken houses there. And again, it's not a terrible thing, but I think it's something we need to consider what we're looking into. And I feel like there's some unknowns out there, especially with drainage going on. Goodness, would this, out of that acreage that's going to be R2, would we have to say, okay, half of it's going to have to be a detention pond so that we can maintain things without flooding everybody downstream? I don't know that, but I would like to see, and I'll work with you on that, Director Burns. I think tabling this to get more information would be good. Again, I'm not against annexation, but I am against having this city be put into a position where we're just doing what's adequate and not being able to operate and do what we do in excellence. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to give myself the floor, and I just have to say the pictures we received were from the same incident of huge amount of rain. Those pictures look like so many pictures I saw all over the city. It wasn't just this area. This happened all over our city, and people's yards looked like lakes everywhere. You can't mess with Mother Nature, and it's going to happen no matter what. But Bill Young Road, Airport Road, they don't have storm sewer. So where's it going to go? The ditch is only so large. The question I have is to see an email that says the recent report stating we are one flush away from catastrophe. Where does this nonsense come from? Pardon? But I'm saying even if it's in the newspaper, where does it come from? I mean, it's untrue. It's completely untrue.
It was a quote from staff to Board of Directors when we attended. It was a quote from staff.
What I'm saying is it's nonsense because I have flushed and we're still here.
No.
It's a
the
ridiculous
equipment.
statement.
The
Yes,
equipment
we
is
have to
failing.
update our sewer. We all know that. We are not about to have everything shut down. There is one street out of all the streets we have that is at capacity, meaning no more development can go on that street and tap on the sewer. One street. We have to upgrade our sewer system the same way we spent $20 million to upgrade it back in whenever it was, 2009. And these things are capital intensive. We have to do those things. But to scare everybody and have this come through as if the sky is falling, it's just not true. And I agree that these things should be analyzed and looked at, and that's why we have an elected board representing the people. We ought to table this, I agree. But I just, having comments that scare people like that, I just didn't think it was something that I liked seeing in a text message and an email, and I just, but I have to say, you are absolutely right. When there is annexation talk, what does the county do? They hit a reset button on future street fixing on county streets because they have no idea what's going to happen, that our city's suddenly going to be in charge of streets that they were about to start working on. And what was planned goes to the bottom of their list. So you're absolutely right on that. And we can say all we want that, I'm not all for, this or that or the other. There was an election last year and only some people were not for the annexation and other people were all for it. This is not the same as an annexation of a massive piece of land taken to the vote of the people. This is an annexation being requested by an individual. It's not the same, but it is a key point to raise when everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, we need to grow. And I heard it so many times. We can't stand in the way of progress. We are elected to manage the growth of our city and our community. We cannot have our head in the sky, pie in the sky, and just, we have to grow. We have to accept every growth development. The majority of developments that have been going on in the city for several years are not developments from local people. I recently heard an analysis from the powers that be in Bentonville that they want the lower income housing to be in Siloam Springs. They don't want the housing like that to be built over in their cities, Bentonville and Rogers. And there has been a coordinated effort over there to push that type of building over here. Not the normal mid-level size home, but the lower income, smaller, much smaller homes. And that's why we have gone over the 50% level now where Siloam is considered a low-income town. So if all our goal is to annex for more and more and more development, then we are not properly managing the growth of the community. And that's where we've got to get back to instead of just rubber stamping every time an annexation or the vote of an annexation comes up. Did anyone else on the board have anything else to say? Yes, Lisa.
I do want to defend staff. So on the wastewater, I don't think it was a scare tactic. I think it is, there's a lot of education that need to occur in our community. And it's to point out that things are being flushed down our toilets that should not be flushed down our toilets. And it's causing millions of dollars in damage to our equipment. And so it wasn't a scare tactic to scare people from developing or wanting to come to Siloam Springs. It's a scare tactic that we need to take serious on educating the community on what you can and cannot put down your septic system. And so, or sewer system. And so that's what it was. So if anybody's listening or if the paper hears this, that's the clarification. Staff was in, I 1,000% support staff on their stand on that, so.
And I didn't read the newspaper article. I appreciate you explaining it. And I completely agree. That has been a problem for quite some time, that no matter what, we can promote that it doesn't matter if it says flushable wipes. Please don't use flushable wipes because it messes up our sewer system. However, I'm saying the phrase has been used by citizens on Facebook, on emails to our board, saying we can't be doing anything because of that. And so I'm saying it's been taken wrong and used against the whole process of building development. Is there any one in the audience that has something to say? State your name and address.
Hello, Blake Murray with Craft and Toll, 300 North College Avenue in Fayetteville, representing the potential developer on this one. Happy to try to answer questions. Y'all unpacked a lot, if I'm being honest. I don't disagree with the tabling, but I would like it to be constructive and try to address y'all's concerns. If not tonight while I'm talking, then next month when we all get back together or whenever y'all decide. So, I think you started off by communication with neighbors, and I guess I'd love to know what you'd like to hear out of that, just so I can facilitate that conversation and try to bring back feedback to the next meeting, if possible.
Just letting you know, Blake, there's a 3-minute time limit.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Even when you're the applicant?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just keep going then. Topography on site falls from north to south, from east to west. I've done some quick sewer profiles, no lift stations needed. We can gravity everything to the south. We've been looking at expanding sewer for the entire basin, not just our property. So there are multiple properties along the highway there that this would benefit from for commercial growth. All of the things that I'm sure y'all are wanting. The developer of the smaller piece that's like 70 acres, I think his intent is to develop that as commercial. He's currently using it as agricultural, and that's why he wants to keep that. But I can certainly talk to him before our next meeting and provide some clarification on that and see if we can upzone that to C2, like you were saying. One of our first steps would be a traffic study. If this thing were to be annexed, to evaluate Bill Young and Highway 59 and then Airport Road and 412. I mean, that whole stretch, we're not in disagreement at all that needs to be studied. We don't have a traffic study on staff. It's done by a third person, so it's not skewed at all. We use TEC out of Fayetteville for all of our traffic studies. So water is always a big deal, like you're saying. We designed a lot of our subdivisions, developments, those kind of things with cascading like wet ponds. So it's treating water quality, water quantity. It's going to adhere to the Siloam Springs Drainage Manual. If downstream improvements have to be made to make it work, that's something we would obviously talk about at the right time. So it'd have fountains in there, all of those kind of things to prevent bugs. The water depth would be 6 feet or greater, so bugs wouldn't be an issue for any of those things. So like I said, y'all unpacked a lot. I'd love to try to answer all y'all's questions, but 3 minutes, I'm going to struggle to probably do that. So happy to answer any questions y'all have.
Any questions? Board members?
I'll start. I'll go real quick. I have the timer in front of me. You can't see it. You got 47 seconds. I'll quit talking. What I would like to see for me is, I understand that, but bring that back to us when he's done with the A1 and he's ready to go C2. I'm gonna buy into your, gravity flow with sanitation, where it ties into us, that's where I'm curious at. That's a long run for us.
Yes, sir.
And, in your traffic study, and I know you're aware of, watershed issues going on in Fayetteville. I'm gonna be pushing adamantly in my closing comments for us to expedite that within the city itself, because that's a missing utility that we're missing out on, but that's a sensitive area. And last, just stop by their house, DeVoe and Butler. They
Okay.
own the whole place out there.
To the north?
To your east,
Okay.
residential there, and to the east, there's a store. And just talk to them, and they've got a long history of concerns. And I want to be a good neighbor when it comes to annexation,
Absolutely.
when it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, Blake.
Choking on water. Mark Miller, 22587 Westwood Drive. For once, I'm not against an annexation, but I did want to bring some information to the board. The piece to the north here, you don't happen to have the other, the purple in this picture is the Siloam Springs Airport. And the area to the north here that's being annexed really should be brought in as either commercial or industrial. If you look at the orientation of the airport in that property, it is directly off the departure end of runway 36. The approach into 18, as someone who flies regularly a commercial, or I mean a corporate jet in and out of Siloam Springs, the approach there ends at 250 feet over the end of the runway. A standard approach by the FAA is 3 degrees or 300 feet per nautical mile. So when I come in on approach, I'm going to be over the top of those houses by 500 or 600 feet. And I would just like to see it either brought in, it's something that's not going to cause a problem down the road where people buy houses and then they start saying, complaining the noise of the airport. Either the developer needs, I think we did this for a part on Airport Road, that they need to be able to sign a letter noting that they know that the airport is just south of them. I just want to, you know, there's a safety issue with it there. I just think the zoning, when it gets to that point, it's going to be incorrect.
And that there's chicken houses to the north.
Yeah, yeah. And if, you know, an airplane has a problem, you're landing in a residential area.
When you stood up and brought up the airport, I thought if anybody knows this facts, it's a pilot, so.
Yeah. We've got a great airport. I'd love to see them stretch it a little bit longer, but, you know, that hopefully will come in time, so. And so you're going to have, they call it a clear area problem when you get, because you're going to only be up less than 400 feet, so.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Ron Holmeyer, civil
Trying to
engineer,
turn on the 3
South Mount Olive. Looks like he got it reset now, so I'll go ahead. I just have one point to make. The applicant that is requesting the A1 did not request the future land use map change because he does intend to make it either commercial or industrial at some future date. That requirement is based on city something or other. So, Director Burns, you could waive or whatever that requirement of the future land use map change and just let him use the agricultural zoning in the interim like he would like to do, with the understanding that the future land use map still requires commercial or industrial on that piece of property. Just a possible solution there.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else from the audience? Anyone else from the board? It has been brought up for a potential tabling, but that does not have to occur. Is there any direction from the board? Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I'd make a motion that we table ordinance 25-30 until adequate questions that have been brought by the board can be answered.
Wish to put a date, or do you wish to say indefinitely? Indefinitely is indefinite until the board votes to bring it back.
I'm comfortable, Ron's looking at me right now, but I'm comfortable with indefinitely because I think we have some communication to occur, right, with county, and it could be next month but yeah, we have some heavy questions here to make things right, is my suggestion.
So are you making a motion to?
I am making a motion to table
it
indefinitely.
Indefinitely. Is there a second?
Second.
Most moved and seconded to table indefinitely. And that does not mean it will not come back. It simply takes the board vote to bring it back, to put it on the agenda.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
I know you've explained it twice now. But, so if we come back to the next meeting, then we can say we want to vote on it at the next meeting? That's what you're speaking of? Okay, thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions?
What?
Who's speaking?
Does that
What?
require notification to the public, or how do we do that if y'all are voting on it to bring it back on the agenda?
Well, it would be voted on, and then it would be at the next meeting. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Is that how you understood it?
Mr. Mayor, the applicant's speaking of the continuity of public notice. Continuity of public notice will be broken for a table indefinitely, and it'll have to go back through a public notice process. So the board will be required to provide adequate public notice to ensure that we follow the state statute.
But if we vote on it at the next meeting to bring it up at the following meeting,
That is correct. It would have to ensure that to bring it up at a future meeting, you would identify at the meeting and verify that there's adequate time to do the public notice prior to when the board requested it to come back.
which there would be because of 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just so you know, the ordinance says that there has to be 30 days for the sign to be up prior to public hearing. So if the board was to table and say, bring it up at the next meeting, it would need to be a meeting that was 30 days after that vote to bring it back for it to be
Has
formally
the sign
considered.
already not been up?
The sign's been up, but like I stated, if the chain of notice is broken, the public would not know when or if this would ever come back to the board, so they have to re-notify and have that sign up 30 days before the meeting goes into effect, per our current ordinance.
I've always understood a table simply puts a pin in something and it is held until it is brought back. You're not having to go through the whole process again.
That's correct if a date is specified with the table. You have to say, we're tabling to November 7th, or we're tabling to December 15th, or whatever date that is. Then the chain is kept. But if you don't have a date, then it breaks the notice, because then there's no way of knowing when it will ever be brought up.
What do you think, Brad? What do you want
Vice
to do?
Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment and place a date on that for the second meeting in November. Looks like perhaps the 18th. Is that correct? November 18th?
Yep.
Would that work?
That would work.
Second.
Or second accepted your change, so it has been moved and seconded to table this until the second November meeting, which is the 18th. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Yes.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes?
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt.
Yes.
Motion passed. We will have this brought back on the November 18th board meeting. Is that correct, how we did it, Ben, in terms
Yes.
of it's on the agenda for that day?
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
No further notice required. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to ordinance 25-31 for the third reading, the vacation of a drainage easement at the 1113 East Ashley Street address.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So this is the third reading. It's vacating a unneeded drainage easement that with further development on the property that was not required anymore. They're just basically doing some housekeeping to clean that up. And we have not received any additional comments since the last reading, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? There being none, we will entertain a motion to put ordinance 2531 on its third reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Allen,
Yes.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes?
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-31, an ordinance vacating and abandoning drainage easements at 1113 East Ashley Street.
We will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 25-31.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for adopting. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes?
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen.
Yes. Motion passed. Our next agenda item is ordinance 25-32, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C2, the 400 block of North Progress Avenue. And you're not Kyle Belts, but
I am not, no. Uh,
we will let you take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Kyle was not able to make it this evening, so I'm going to cover this item for him. But this is the 600 block of North Progress going from A1 to C2. We have not received any comments or questions on this since the last reading. And a future land use map amendment would be needed for local commercial. And with that, we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any comments or questions from the board?
Vice Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
First of all, I'd like to thank Josh for taking time out of his lovely afternoon to chat with me. Some of it was master street plan concerns. We had some discussion tonight. And the other was to the north of this property where all this zoning is taking place. We own that. That's city-owned property. And when I was a city employee, so it had to be somewhere in the past, if you go downstream, down from the soccer fields, we put in a dam in there. I don't remember if it was underflow, overflow dam to assist with some of the drainage. So as we develop these into C2 properties, and when these properties develop, we are taking a burden on as a city because we have failed to manage our own wetland area as a riparian zone. And so I'm for zoning changes and all those things. Just keep in mind that somewhere down the road, the conversation I had with Josh today was consider partnerships with RWPA and things like that so we can improve these riparian zones as we develop and create hard surfaces. And the other is look at our watershed and start looking at as a water utility. And I know staff has been working on that. At one point, I thought we should ignore it and get UDC passed first, but now I feel pretty strongly we might want to expedite that. And so, and these zoning changes are a direct result why we need to look at our stormwater as a utility. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Regarding what you're talking about, that's Mudcat Creek, right?
Cat Creek, yes.
It goes on down, and Sioux England Drive, there's like a pond there. Is that city-owned property, do you know?
Yeah,
The
all the way,
pond?
yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was school or city, but that's part of the whole Mudcat, which eventually leads to the water on the golf course, right? Or part of, it merges, I should say, yeah.
We are, as we develop hard surface, and that's why this watershed is so big, and not for everybody in Northwest Arkansas, but that house there is, you saw the flooding, and that house there, the only real solution there is it needs to be purchased.
Just
between the
to
golf
the
course.
south of the golf course?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's just reality of what's happening. That's the downside of growth.
Well, I knew where you were talking about. I just wanted to confirm where, I mean, because I don't know where the city owns and where we don't own, and so that's why I was questioning. Is there any comments or questions from the board on this? Any comments or questions from the public? I will be abstaining on this vote as it is family related as well. Anyone else? Roll call. What? Oh, yeah, we need a motion, I'm sorry.
Make a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion to have ordinance 2532 on its third reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Abstain.
Director Carroll.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-32, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to C2, property located at the 400 block of North Progress Avenue, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Christina. I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 25-32.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm not sure who seconded it.
Director Rissler is the motion and Director Carroll is the second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Abstain.
Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next agenda item is ordinance 25-34, the amending city municipal codes, adoption of chapter 35, development, signs, and zoning for its first reading. Mr. Ben Rhodes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So this will be a little bit longer of a presentation than normal, but just bear with me as we go through this. This is the proposed Unified Development Code, or UDC, and this is just a collection of codes streamlined into one chapter of the current code book. The update allows for the ease of use, having codes basically in one place. In addition to reorganization, staff has worked to modernize the codes and correct various issues, which will better serve the Siloam Springs as it continues to grow. The impetus for this update largely comes out of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Upon a review of the plan, 15 different goals were identified within the 0 to 5 year range. And those goals would be addressed through the adoption of the UDC. The proposed ordinance will both repeal the existing chapters as well as adopt Chapter 35 in one ordinance. The chapters are consolidated into the proposed chapter development, signs, and planning. Because the chapter is larger compared to other chapters of the code, staff felt it necessary to break the chapters into 9 different titles which are different subjects that correspond to former chapters within the code book that are proposed to be repealed. You'll see these listed below on the slide there, 1 through 9. And this is unique to our code organization. And for example, Title 4, the landscaping, that's currently found in Chapter 53 of the code book. So here you see a rough development process starting with the initial draft that was sent to the board for the review back on February 5th. Prior to this timeline, staff worked to develop early code drafts, which began with the sign code. So I'm not going to go through each of the steps, as you can see them listed out there on the slide. But you'll see recently the public comments ended on August the 22nd, and the Planning Commission reviewed the recommended approval on September 9th. If the final third reading occurs in early November, the ordinance will go in effect by mid-December, but impacting planning applications starting January next year. Staff also presented an overview of the UDC on September 18th at the Arvest Bank's Skyline Report meeting. Here in this slide, you see early versions or in subversions that were developed based off of public comments. Version 4.0 is what went to the Planning Commission. At the Planning Commission, comment was made to provide cleaner images of the street cross sections. This was done with the current ordinance. In addition, staff made a few minor grammatical edits, which do not change any of the content of the code. The resolution issue with some of the cross sections will be corrected by the next reading. If you saw that the lines kind of running through some of that, we'll get that fixed. In total, we logged 134 comments. This included comments coming from stakeholders through the online survey as well as the roundtable meeting. Version 5.0 is what's before you now. The redaction watermark, we realize that does say 4.0. That's just a carryover from the Planning Commission's documents. So when this comes back, we'll have that 5.0 on the redaction. So now I'll transition to cover more specifically the suggested code changes from each of the 9 titles I mentioned. It's important to note that what I highlight in this presentation is not comprehensive for the entire code, but merely some of the highlights from each of the titles, focusing mostly on the recent changes, but also covering some of the major changes that we reviewed earlier this year. Generally, for all titles, we looked at a late change to the title to add the name signs to be more inclusive as to what's included in Chapter 35. We added the fees to the end of the Title 1, which are the fees that are shown within the code, but also consolidated at the end of Title 1, just for ease of reference so someone can find those fees really quickly if they wanted to. We addressed the role of the city administrator, referring throughout the codes as administrator, with updated pronoun usage to be less gender specific, depending on who the administrator might be. We also updated referrals to state statutes. Those are included in citations within the code. And then moving into Title 1, we worked to include some definitions, such as for accessory dwellings and cluster housing and Charleston housing. As you see, example of the Charleston housing on the top left slide there. And of course, you see the typical townhome design at the bottom. Continuing with Title 1, we included new definition for master street plan, touched on the level of service definitions, as well as addressed conflicting regulations within the code, changing from the most restrictive to the most recently approved. That would take precedence should the conflict arise between 2 different sections of the code. Moving on to Title 2 for planning, we looked at regulations that govern the operation of the Planning Commission. This is the former Chapter 78. Updates include changing references to an old act from 1968 and changing the annual report to come January each year rather than in July. So it's more consistent with reporting in the calendar year rather than mid-year to mid-year. And also mandating what information is included in the report for the board. Moving to Title 3, this is the former Chapter 54 of the code, which deals with the planning permits. One of the key things that we have changed is overhauling how the neighborhood meetings are conducted. The idea was that these meetings would be a prerequisite prior to submitting formal applications to the city that would be held off-site by the developer. However, upon further review, we decided it'd be easier to do these as part of the urban plan development zones, only those. And they would occur at the standard pre-application meeting, and we would just open up those meetings to the public for when they're given sufficient notice to affected neighbors if they wanted to attend those pre-application meetings. We removed the requirements that plans had to be filed within 60 days, as the regulation is not enforceable due to this happening at the county governmental level. We removed the definitions for sound planning as it's redundant with other terms used in the code, such as neighborhood context and character. We've updated the time extensions for projects, clarified that special use permits do run with the land. And probably one of the more significant changes in the code, then this came out from the board workshop that was held on July 29th, is addressing how permits such as preliminary plats and significant development permits are approved. The proposal allows for the approval of these permits to stop at the Planning Commission, but will allow for an opportunity for the Board of Directors to appeal any decision of the Planning Commission should the board's desire to do so within 10 days of the Planning Commission's decision. Since the board meets on the third Tuesday, this option would give the board time to call up a particular approval and have that appealed back to the board at their next regular meeting. This would require 2 affirmative votes from the board. The permit, as reviewed by the Planning Commission, I just said that, but would be presented at the following board meeting after that appeal vote. So moving into Title 4, which is for the landscaping, we updated the introduction to better explain the purpose of the title. We looked at regulations pertaining to the diameter of breast height using the term that's standard, the industry standard practice. We clarified that landscaping standards are subject to open space standards such as green space buffers found in the zoning code. We provided more flexibility as to when trees can be planted, such as if there's a special site condition or difficult time of year to plant trees, and requiring a tree replacement for significant trees. Those are the big ones, or the fees, or a fee in lieu allowed to pay for the replacement of these significant trees if they're cut down, and the fees must be used to plant trees somewhere else within the city. As I mentioned earlier, the sign code was the first one that we looked at as far as the code updates. And this goes back, the main reason we did this was due to a U.S. Supreme Court decision requiring content neutrality for all sign regulations. So the sign cannot be regulated based off of the content of the sign, but rather unique features of the sign, such as its size, color, etc. A few additional highlights. We looked at modernization of these regulations with current sign technologies and styles, looking at regulating unique signs such as sign walkers. Those are the people that hold up or wear signs. And also we organize sign regulations by type and zone district for ease of reference. Moving into Title 6. And this is referring back to land development. We looked at, we're looking at basically the subdivision of land. Here we added the new revised sidewalk ordinance to the title, so that is included. We added a requirement for parkland to be included in the subdivision based off of the number of lots included. The greater number of lots will require additional parkland, so it's proportional to the size of the development. We changed the minimum block length to 250 feet to better accommodate smaller micro subdivisions. We looked at additional caveats for circumstances to request wider utility easements. There must be shown a need or not a prospective or a believed use on the property, but an immediate need. Adding a local exemption for pre-application meetings. We clarified submittal requirements. And finally, bond submission procedures were updated to allow greater flexibility. With Title 7, we converted, this is the master street plan that was converted to a title that we call Street Design Standards, essentially changing a planning document into code. And this was needed because many aspects of this plan were being used as regulatory elements for street design, so it really just needs to be within the code itself. Along with this, we updated typical street cross sections to accommodate bicycle and pedestrian traffic in addition to motor vehicles. We added a requirement for street trees, as you see shown in the picture in the avenue on the right. They'll be included in each of the classification of streets, and guidelines for spacing between street trees and street lighting is included. We updated the typical street cross sections, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And so they're easy to read and provide more information to the code user and also provide greater flexibility. These have been printed also for your review at your places. We included right-of-way dedications should only be required when the value of the land requested is proportional to the costs of the development. This is in keeping with federal case law to prevent takings. And finally, a correction will be made regarding Scrivener's error in one of the tables that was shown. Some of the figures were shown in there inaccurately. We're going to have that corrected for the second reading. It was a minor Scrivener's error that we discovered. And here are just some of the cross sections. These are the ones in color here. You got the principal arterial there on the left. And then we have basically two travel lanes with a center turn lane and then a sidewalk and then a shared path on the right. Then we have minor arterial with the standard two travel lanes with a center, with no center turn, just with the two lines dividing the lanes. And then, of course, sidewalks and paths on either side. The parkway is essentially like the previous one, but you have a divider with the green space strip in the middle. This is like Progress Avenue. Then the standard collector is the two-lane with the center turn. And then moving on to neighborhood level, these are basically subdivision streets. You got the neighborhood link. When you can see an offset on the top corner here, I'll circle that. That shows what that parking would look like. We have the neighborhood street, typical neighborhood street, and then an alleyway. So moving into the second to last title, which is the zoning, Title 8. We added a provision to allow for accessory dwelling units by right. This is also a requirement of state code and was recently updated earlier this year. We added a new zone called the R5. This will be specifically for townhomes so that we're no longer lumped into with multifamily. This allows for more predictable results from zoning, so we know where townhomes will be built versus a typical apartment complex. We added a new use unit for outdoor merchandise businesses, such as businesses with goods that are stored exclusively outdoors rather than a building. We added a notation at the end of the R3 and R4 zones to inform the code users of the option of the zero lot line development. We created the new UPD zone, which replaces entirely the former PD zone, the planned development, which allows for a more customized style development as we've seen in the PD zones, but building with the current zoning rather than preset development standards. In addition, one of the comments, we've added a waiver option for some of the PD standards to be considered on a case-by-case basis. Floor to area ratios in some cases were removed due to the reg becoming redundant with other regulations. And we updated the fence code to provide better clarity on when regulations kick in, particularly if the fences are constructed over easements. Continuing on with the Title VIII zoning, with respect to fences again, we added additional zones as to where the fence standards are included. Also, we're allowing fences to go up to 12 feet tall in certain situations where there's an incompatible land use to address screening of taller or higher structures. The special height would be needed to be approved by the city administrator. We added a section for parking lots that face towards residential structures. We had actually seen this happen where the headlights of a vehicle will shine into a neighboring home when parking. So we have required evergreen shrubs or some other method to block the headlights from going into the neighboring property, as you see example of the photo on the bottom right there. We relaxed some of the driveway spacing standards for triplexes and quadplexes, again from public comment, because they operate nearly like single-family residential structures, especially when added along street frontage. Finally, we added a provision for compact car parking and bicycle parking for office and retail buildings. And then for Title IX, this is essentially the penalties and remedies section. It was taken basically from the existing code. We just added it into its own title that deals with the penalties that applied to everything within Chapter 35. And with that, the Planning Commission is recommending approval of the ordinance as presented. And finally, it's just important to remember that this code is not written in stone. Should there be any parts that need to be adjusted in the future, we can come back with an amendment of the ordinance and address any areas that need clarification or different policy direction. Our hope is that the UDC is a living document and will continue to develop over time. And with that, we're available for any of your questions. Thank you. And I'm going to go back over there.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions from the board?
Vice Mayor, I'll just say thank you. Thank you for your work on that. I know it's been a long time. Thank you to the whole staff that's been working on it and to the citizens that got involved. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions from the public? I will entertain a motion to put ordinance 2534 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Rissler,
Yes.
Director Allen,
Yes.
Director Carroll,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Wiles,
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-34, an ordinance adopting Chapter 35, Development, Signs, and Zoning, and repealing Chapters 53, 54, 78, 81, 87, and 102 of the City Municipal Code.
Thank you, Christina. Our next agenda item is the administrator's report.
There were no expenditures in excess of $30,000 or per Resolution 11-25. This month, Lowe's is partnering with Wilbur's Rescue Foundation to provide improvements to the animal shelter. They're going to add new gates on all the kennels, replace some fencing, do some painting of the building, pressure washing, landscaping, adding posts for outdoor shade structures, et cetera. So we appreciate that very much. Parks and Recreation is hosting the 2025 Citywide Litter Cleanup on October 10th and 11th. This is in conjunction with Love Siloam. The last concert of the 2025 Memorial Park Music Series will be Saturday, October 11th at 6:30 p.m. with the Butler Creek Boys at the Chautauqua Amphitheater. And this is not on your list, but Jason, our Community Services Director, let me know that one of the trucks being used in the spring cleanup had some mechanical issues. And even though they are behind schedule, they still intend to finish all the routes by Friday this week.
Fall cleanup.
Fall cleanup.
You
Sorry.
said spring cleanup. So they'll still get it.
They'll still get it. They'll just be a little behind.
It's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Next, we have our director's reports. I'll start and just say our beloved mayor is absent tonight, is why I'm running the meeting. She's out for health reasons. If we're not here, we're either taking time off or we have health reasons. And I communicated to her last night, and she texted me and said, God is good, and I believe in the power of prayer, and I echo that sentiment exactly. And I ask everyone to pray for her continued healing. As much as Judy loves our city, our citizens love her even more. And I appreciate everyone taking time to pray for her health to be brought back to 100%. And then what you were just saying, we are having city fall cleanup this week, right?
Correct.
Because it's funny to see people on their nightly walk and go through and, well, I can use this. And so, you know, one man's treasure is another, or one man's trash is another man's treasure. And so it is a nice thing that our city does in the spring and the fall, and not every city does it, and I appreciate it. Because it's more fun than going to a garage sale. I want to ask our citizens, our community, to pray for the end of violent conflict around the world, especially the Middle East and Ukraine, to pray for the protection of our leaders, our governor and her family, and our president and vice president and their entire families. Less than a month ago, there was a horrible tragedy that was caused by violence for political reasons. It has gotten worse nationwide, and I've just encouraged people to pray to bring our country to come together. We should be acknowledging and recognizing what we all have in common and work together towards a goal of making America better and greater. Diversity is not a virtue that leads to unification. Diversity separates us. Unification, unifying, unity brings us together, and that's what our country needs, is to come together as one and celebrate what we all have in common. And that is all I have to say about that. I wish to say thank you to all of our city employees for the hard work they do. We're approaching the end of the year and budget time, and it is always a tough thing to deal with on somebody's gonna not get everything they want. That's always the way it is. As a department head, it's a tough job, and it's hard as a city administrator, and it's hard as a city board to decide what is going to work the best. But every decision is made in the best interest of all of our citizens that live in Siloam and for our community and the future of our community, the best interest of our community. And with that, I will turn it to Mindy. You go first.
Well, I was going to ask you what times to be available for the fall cleanup, not the citywide litter cleanup, not fall cleanup, but I found it online. So looks like we need to register if you want to participate, and you can do that at, go to the Parks and Recreation page, and you can click on a volunteer form to sign up, but it looks like it's on Friday from 9 to noon, ending with lunch at the amphitheater, and Saturday, 8 to 11, with breakfast at the amphitheater, and then, of course, the concert that night. So that's something that I'm not able to do every year, but I've done a couple of times, and I've enjoyed it, and I think it's a nice way we can get together and serve the community. Only other thing is congratulations to Lieutenant Bartley and Sergeant Coble for their 20 years of service.
Thank you, Mindy. Ken?
I was going to say congratulations to the two officers as well. 20 years is a great milestone, and we're glad to have them here for that length of time, and hope things go well for them. That I don't think they'll be here another 20 years, but we can still get some use out of them while we can. No, congratulations to them. And Scott, to you for your leadership. That's just a great thing. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Ken. Lisa?
Fall is almost here. I know it's supposed to be here, but it's pretty warm outside, so can't wait till it gets here. Hope everybody has a great fall.
Thank you, Lisa. It is amazing that it is supposed to be getting fall, but yet we're still seeing 80 degrees outside during the day. I meant to thank Lowe's. That is a wonderful thing that Lowe's is doing to help our animal shelter. When big companies step up and pick up the slack on things like that, that not everything can be taken care of when we need it. And I sincerely appreciate them helping our animal shelter with all of those things that they're doing. And then, yes, a big congrats to our 20-year officers. And as I said the last time we recognized 20-year employees, it's not as if they're about to retire. They're still employed and they're still working. And so that's what's great, is that they're not putting in their 20 years and going on. They're happy in their job, and we're happy that they're happy. And so I appreciate them very much. Reed?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Madam Mayor, our thoughts, our prayers are with you tonight. And thank you for the example that you show to us as directors and to this community of Siloam Springs. And Bill, take care of her.
Thanks, Reed. You're my homework card. I can't follow up on that, but this last weekend is an example of tourism at its finest. So we had the Homegrown Festival. We had some music artists run around that you don't know of unless you follow that music, but they were here. It reminded me of the 70s all over again. That's what it felt like. We had the Spring to Spring ride. Senator Dees and Representative Torres participated in. We had Woka Fest going on. You just couldn't take it all in. And then this next weekend coming up, I just encourage everybody, the weather should be very decent, and get out to Chautauqua and see the Butler Creek Boys perform. It'd be great to see that place just packed to end the year out. Gazebo is still under construction, so it won't be complete, I don't believe, but I could be wrong. This last month, I attended the Quorum Court meeting, the historical meeting, and I've got I'm just out there trying to wrap my mind around what's happening in Northwest Arkansas, and so it's across all cities. Outside the needs for housing, it's just a strain on the infrastructure. The takeaways are, we have to work together as we go forward to meet the challenges. The group that put that on is called Growing Home. Tomorrow, I'll be over in Bentonville for Advancing Housing Solutions in Northwest Arkansas. It's a groundwork. I know you guys have followed some of the groundwork stuff. Just trying to glean information as we move forward. I appreciate the developer tonight, even though they weren't here, the representative. I hope they get out there. They need to talk to the citizens. We do want to grow smart. We want to do better. I learned some lessons on my last time on the board. We made some mistakes. And so we can do better, and it's okay to slow down and to table things, to reevaluate it. So I look forward to the challenges this year and in 2026. And with that, Vice Mayor, I request we adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.